Yo, it's LaVinci back with another one. About to break down this PSYOP video. They took down my crisis actor video, but it's all good. We're going to keep hitting them with the truth. You know what I'm saying? So we're just going to take a look at it, how society is being conditioned. That's all this media is doing. You know, all of these outlets at one time pumping out the same story to millions of people is causing a conditioning. You know, a lot of people are triggered. So we want to be observing this and not being caught up emotionally, because that's what they want you to do. Pick a side. That's what they want you to do. So if you look deeper into this, you can just see the scheme of things, how everybody's connected with the government, the media, the news, all of that. And just know that this foundation of this conditioning has been set like so long ago. This has been going on for a long time. So to think that these Hollywood celebrities actually have a role or actually have a say-so, you know, it doesn't make sense. When you look at it for what it is, you really see like, okay, they need these Hollywood celebrities to connect us to these stories, to the government. So we got to break away from that, man. You know, the TV, shit, get rid of it. If I was you, if you don't know how to observe it, it's not good. I got rid of my TV a long time ago. It was the best thing I ever did. But now they got social media. But we got to learn how to observe it. We can't be getting our feelings caught up in it. Just observe it and understand. It's all programming and conditioning. So I got a lot of evidence on this, you know, and I done did other videos too, but it's a lot going on in the media right now, in the news, with all these different shootings and things, and people just really need to look at this for what it's worth and understand that you really can't trust nobody, you know, when it comes to these sources of information. You know, don't get tied up into it. You know, they have you talking about certain situations, news stories for hours, getting you emotionally drained, arguing with people. That's the plan. That's all they want. They just want you to get your energy tied up into it, because you know, society has been conditioned by historical events. 9/11, all of these different situations move us toward a certain direction that we're not even willing to go in, but we just go blindly because we don't understand what's really going on behind the scenes. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into this video. This is part one. You know, yeah, my video is about truth. That's what this channel is about. It's about truth. That's what, it ain't about facts. It ain't about opinions. It's about truth. So you know, that's it, man. I'm out. We gonna check this video out. You know, leave comments, holler at me. Later.
Among the support elements needed are the light mobile printing team with its printing and editorial shelters. Also needed is a radio team to support existing radio stations, particularly in the back country. An audiovisual vehicle will help to increase the effectiveness of face-to-face communications. And a loudspeaker team will support tactical operations. One of the initial steps of the military PSYOP program is directed toward the hostland military establishment itself. Since the military represents the government to the populace, their actions and attitudes can do much to create a favorable image of that government in the minds of the people. Hostland soldiers are provided with rules of conduct toward civilians and impressed with the importance of observing them. A soldier's attitude goes a long way toward implementing an effective military PSYOP program. Another portion of the PSYOP program, primarily directed toward the civilian population, is concerned with developing national unity. Once the people start to consider themselves as a national group, acceptance of their government tends to increase, thus making penetration by subversives much more difficult. The proper conduct of the individual soldier towards the people is a critical factor in creating this sense of national unity. Touring groups of performers are used to attract attention. They are particularly effective in remote areas. Entertainment or diversion of any kind is eagerly awaited. Entertainment teams like this one attract crowds of people wherever they appear. Controlled interaction can result in group belonging and assist in developing a sense of national unity. A continuing effort is made to link the PSYOP program with progress to help the people help themselves. This makes them see the military and the government as positive images, benevolent symbols, signifying steps toward a better life. The sense of success, the satisfaction of a job finished, these are of major importance. Direct response to community needs is vital. Projects which would be meaningless in terms of local needs should be avoided. For psychological purposes, one finished well is worth far more than an unfinished dam. Throughout these efforts, the PSYOP program keeps the people informed. They are told what is being done. They are told why it is being done. And they are told how it will benefit them. In areas where the insurgent is openly recruiting and receiving aid from the people, an internal security program takes the greatest PSYOP effort. Here the objectives are to sever the link between the insurgent and the civilian population, to detect and neutralize subversive apparatus, and to provide a secure environment. An effective internal security program encompasses roadblocks, curfews, critical supplies such as medicine, money, food, explosives, arms, etc., all of which make the PSYOP effort a little more difficult. Where restrictions are imposed, the people should be made to realize the necessity for them. They must be convinced that these restrictions are only temporary. That as soon as subversive activities are controlled, restrictions will be lifted. Many problems are encountered during the implementation of this type of program. Perishables damaged while held up in roadblocks must be investigated immediately. Curfews can alienate shopkeepers and theater and restaurant owners unless implementation of such measures is planned and announced well in advance. Curfews may also alienate the younger people who use the evening for youth activities. Controls restrict the flow of essential products and goods. Psychologically, the people must be convinced that if it were not for the insurgents, these restrictions would not be necessary, and that when insurgent activities cease, restrictions will be removed. In areas of the country where government troops are battling the subversives, the psychological effort is of a different nature. Here, in addition to directing the psychological effort at the civilians, it now must be addressed to friendly and enemy troops as well. The civilian problems in a combat zone are those of safety, relocation, and medical aid. The PSYOP program supports the effort to get the civilians out of the way of the fighting. If property has been damaged in the fighting, prompt repairs and payment is the prime goal. Medical attention for wounded civilians should be made available to the maximum extent possible. It must be made very obvious to the civilian that his welfare and safety are of great concern to his government, that they are, in fact, the major interest of his government. The complaints of civilians against soldiers are given full attention. Rules of conduct involving actions of soldiers toward civilians are rigidly enforced. The moment the citizen is convinced that his government is there to serve and protect him, he will begin to support and serve his government. The PSYOP effort directed at the guerrilla has one objective: to demoralize him and to motivate him to defect. By leaflet, by loudspeaker, by radio, by whatever means possible, PSYOP reaches his ears and eyes, stressing the futility of his present, offering hope for his future if he defects. With the PSYOP program underway, it becomes necessary to evaluate its effectiveness. Improvements and changes must be continually made based on the evaluations of current intelligence. Prisoners are interrogated with special questionnaires that give clues toward their reaction to the psychological effort directed toward them. Regular tours of the country afford PSYOP officers a means of direct evaluation. Interception and analysis of enemy messages and radio and TV broadcasts provides another useful measure of the effectiveness of the PSYOP program. Feedback information from the field is used as a basis for continual changes. For the psychological program must be constantly updated. As the people are affected by the program, so the program is affected by their changes in attitudes. A successful PSYOP program will make them perceive things from the desired viewpoint. You are looking at the most important man in the world. In America, he is called John Doe. Other countries have other names for him. He is the man without a face. Every man, the average citizen. The man who totals 1 billion when added to all his counterparts all over the world. In the final analysis, he will decide the future of the world. Because his importance is clearly recognized by forces that seek world domination, his mind has become a target. When he pledges his allegiance, when he decides in which direction he should project his loyalty, the issue in host land and many real countries in the world today will have been largely resolved. In Inevitably, the moment of decision will come. And at such moments, what thoughts will pass through his mind? What images will he see? What factors will push him in one direction or another? What decision has he made? Who can say with certainty? But given an effective, comprehensive psychological operations campaign as part of the background, we could logically make an optimistic forecast.
Vancouver.
Whenever world leaders gather, they are sure to be met by protesters. Witness what happened earlier this week when the leaders of Canada, Mexico, and the United States gathered in Montebello, Quebec. Protesters showed up right on cue, but they were also joined by police officers posing as part of the group, a move that many say crossed the line. As CTV's David Kincaid reports, a man from Nanaimo captured the action.
This was the scene in Montebello, Quebec this week. Agitated protesters pushing, taunting the authorities with words and projectiles until police retaliated with pepper spray, tear gas, even rubber bullets. A short distance away, a more peaceful protest by union leaders and their supporters was also going on. All was calm until these three masked men joined in.
Put the rock down! This is our line!
Tensions increased when the trio, armed with large rocks, were accused of being police officers, there not to simply observe, but to incite violence.
These three guys are cops, everybody! They're trying to create a riot so that they can suck us all in.
Protesters say that would have given riot police an excuse to move in and break up the demonstration. Quebec police have now admitted the three masked men are officers, but deny they were there to stir up trouble. However, the Nanaimo documentary filmmaker who shot the videotape saw it differently.
They've admitted that they are their officers, but they said that they're not provocateurs. But yet the guy's got a rock in his hand. Come on. You know, the security was a federal issue at Montebello, and Stockwell Day is in charge of that.
But Stockwell Day sees nothing wrong with the Quebec police actions.
The overall rules are very clear. Nobody's above the law, and there'll be no inciting of violence, and I believe they stayed with that commitment. The video reports that we've seen show, in fact, that these undercover officers were exposed because they were not committing violence.
Not true, say the people who were actually there. They say the officers were exposed, at least in part, because somebody noticed that while they were carefully covering their faces, they were still wearing their police-issue boots. David Kincaid, CTV News, Vancouver.
The U.S. Army has used local television stations in the U.S. as training posts for some of its psychological operations personnel, according to Yahoo News blog The Upshot. Since at least 2001, both WRAL, a CBS affiliate in Raleigh, North Carolina, and WTOC, a CBS affiliate in Savannah, Georgia, have regularly hosted active duty soldiers from the Army's 4th Psychological Operations Group as part of the Army's Training with Industry program. Training with Industry is designed to offer career soldiers a chance to pick up skills through internships and fellowships with private businesses. The PSYOP soldiers used WRAL and WTOC to learn broadcasting and communications expertise that they could apply in their mission, as the Army describes it, of, quote, influencing the emotions, motives, objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of foreign audiences. WRAL and WTOC were on a list of participants in the Army's Training with Industry program provided to The Upshot in response to a Freedom of Information Act request, and a spokeswoman with the Army's Human Resources Command confirmed that PSYOP soldiers worked at the stations. Lieutenant Colonel Stacy Bathrick said, quote, both of these stations are very supportive of the military and think very highly of the program. Bathrick said the soldiers were never involved in news gathering. The relationship between PSYOPs, Training with Industry, and television news operations has stirred controversy in the past. In 2000, after a Dutch newspaper reported that PSYOPs troops had been placed in CNN's newsroom under the program, CNN discontinued the internships and admitted that they had made a mistake. A spokesperson said at the time, quote, "It was inappropriate for PSYOPs personnel to be at CNN. They are not here now, and they never again will be at CNN." WRAL and WTOC are not alone among media outlets that the U.S. military has sought to learn from through training with industry. The Upshot has previously reported that the Marine Corps placed public affairs officers with the Chicago Tribune for several years in order to better understand how to influence and work with the news media. And CNNMoney.com hosted an officer in 2007 and 2008, despite the network's embarrassment over the program in 2000.
Greetings. My name is Larry Dietz, and I've had the pleasure to be a part of RSA since the good old small days in Redwood City. I've also had the privilege of serving as a colonel in the Army Reserve, where I was double-careered in signals intelligence and psychological warfare. This year at RSA, I am delighted to be able to combine both of these careers and go into an area that I think attendees will find very interesting, because while people tend to think of cybersecurity people as kind of boring fuddy-duddies, we are actually very devious, creative people. And so my session, Cyber Influence, talks about the use of the cyber world for psychological operations. This slide shows me in front of my friend Sun Tzu at the National Military Museum of Beijing. And Sun Tzu was the first real classic strategist to realize the importance of influence as a weapon of warfare. Most of the other generals are all in favor of what we call kinetic war, blowing things up, killing people. Sun Tzu realized if you got the enemy to surrender without firing a shot, that was the epitome of success. There are some major differences between traditional warfare and cyber warfare, and I've put a number of these on the slide here. The ones that are most interesting probably are the fact that the internet has really leveled the playing field for influence operations, so that non-state actors such as terrorist groups, transnational criminal organizations, and others can use it as a tool just as efficiently and just as effectively as nation states such as Russia and Iran and so on and so forth. A major difference between the two kinds of warfare is that traditional warfare, for the most part, is between nation states, is declared, one nation declares war on the other, and is recognized in that way. Cyber war generally does not have a declaration of war, and while the law of armed combat, a generic body of international law, as well as various conventions such as the Geneva Convention, cover aspects of conventional, traditional war, there is no similar thing, similar body of law for cyber war. The other thing to be aware of is that cyber war is far more cost efficient than traditional war. All that you need is an internet connection and commercial off-the-shelf equipment, hardware, software, and you're in business. So the nub of my session really looks at merging what we call cyber war with psychological operations, or PSYOP. And PSYOP has been around for quite some time, and it is what is called non-kinetic warfare, sometimes put under the rubric of information operations, where information operations include all of the elements, the components of a force that influence. That would be public affairs, that would be civil military operations, that would include electronic warfare or jamming, as well as cyberspace operations that we've discussed, DDoS attacks and the like. and most importantly, PSYOP, psychological operations. PSYOP in traditional warfare can take the same format as many of your marketing departments have, engaging in buying advertising space, buying TV time, radio time, and of course exercising messages on the social media, particularly Facebook and Twitter. However, there has really not been a firm combination of these two things until recently. And recently we've seen a number of interesting wrinkles, such as the use of deepfake video. And deepfake videos have been used and shown sometimes for harmless Facebook activity, other times for not so harmless Facebook activity. And they're an outgrowth of the desire of nation states and non-state actors to use the internet for more than recruiting, but as a propaganda tool. And so my session will look at how these work, and we'll talk about deepfakes, and we'll also talk about what I call cyber media jamming. And cyber media jamming is the best example is when newspapers such as the LA Times in January of this year, January of 2019, were hacked to the point where their printing presses could not print. And so this is very much like jamming in the broadcast media, where I turn on the jammers so that the targets, the audience, the receivers cannot receive the TV program or the radio program or the cell phone call that they would like to receive. And that jamming denies the reader the use of the media, just as the hacking of the printing presses of the LA Times and others denied the reader of those newspapers the ability to get their newspaper. And so during my session, I will be providing a tutorial on some of the highlights of military strategy fundamentals. I'm going to go over some key concepts on the cyber war side, key concepts from the PSYOP side, including my personal experience in TV wars in Bosnia, where the Republika Srpska was using the media to incite citizens against the NATO force. And as usual, I will take questions and answers, and I might even have some more case studies that emerge between now and then. I look forward to seeing you at my session on Tuesday afternoon, and I hope you have a great RSA show. Thank you.
So busted. Oh, so busted. Yeah, see, people have figured it out on Twitter now. And here's an easy way to find it. Once you recognize one of the memes that is being put out there by these government accounts, you can throw that meme word for word into the search section, and it will give you all the accounts tweeting that same tweet. Now, do you think it's all just coincidence, folks? Do you? Do you think that all these accounts just happen to be putting out that same tweet? You notice all the pretty girl icons? Yeah. All those pretty girls you're talking to is usually the government. Know that. Yeah, look at all the pretty girls. Look at them. So pretty, aren't they? Yep. Young, pretty girls. And every single one of them just happens to be putting out that tweet, huh? Yeah. Now you see other people like this person, they don't know they're interacting with a bot, and so they respond to it, you know. And then I've done this too. I respond back to them with what I would consider, something logical rather than what they're putting out. But it doesn't matter, you're talking to a bot. It's only designed to psychologically affect you to bring out your response, see? And that's why You see, that's why all this is here, folks. Now, for years, I've been calling these accounts fake fucks. And everybody thinks I'm just being mean, or I'm just being derogatory, or I just don't like that person, or, whatever. I don't know what they think. No, folks, I call them fake fucks because fake fucks is what they are. Do you understand? These are not real people. These are not real accounts. And there's millions of them. You understand? This is what Twitter has become. It's a psychological operation designed to steer the mass mind the way television was always designed to do. It's just that we're not watching CNN anymore. And they know this, folks. And that's why they're on. Ooh, I like that. Search for this shit and see all the troll bots. See, people are figuring it out. People are figuring it out. They're not as dumb as they think we are. At least not all the time. And the more of us out there helping to show people this stuff so they can understand it for themselves, see, that they're busted. Now people are going to recognize this. The mass mind will adapt because a new bit of information has been introduced into the equation. And we will adapt and come out with something else on the other side of the equal sign. But anyway, this is why I was given the warning of suspension this morning for pointing this out. And I was going to go back and do a video. I was going to go back and start screen cap all these accounts, because if you look at them, you'll notice their every tweet is the same. Now you see how that user is suspended? 99% of all of these accounts that are tweeting this out are getting suspended. There's a few of them that will instantly put it out, and then they'll instantly protect their account so they don't get suspended. And I wish I could show you some of their accounts to grab the screenshots, because their every tweet is the same. It's got this one right here, then underneath that it says One Direction sucks, and then something about New York Mets. Every one of these accounts have the exact same Twitter feed, folks. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand how fake this is? That's why when you go on Twitter and you say something that is controversial, and all of a sudden 20 or 50 or 200 or 2,000 bots start attacking you. This is why, folks. It's all fake. It's all a fraud. Do you understand? I mean, I don't know what... If you can't see this, then you do not have eyes to see what's going on, and you should probably...
I thought you guys might find this news clip from CNN very, very interesting.
If you're just joining us, 3 massive explosions have gone off simultaneously in what appears to be a coordinated attack. This image is live in Rome, looking toward the Vatican, and is as close as our cameras can get. It is believed that the Pope was in residence at the time of the blast.
At this point, you may be wondering, okay, what the hell's going on here? What'd I miss? Was there really a nuclear attack? I'll get back to that clip in a minute. But first, you know how I always talk about how mainstream media, specifically but not limited to CNN, employs what amounts to teleprompter reading stage actors parroting the well-planned scripts of their corporate social engineering puppet masters? You remember when I reported on the fact that CNN's Charles Jaco and Carl Rochelle acted like they were in the midst of a chemical weapons attack while reporting on the Gulf War? Remember when CNN cameraman John Gurkovic acted like he was a disgruntled Hillary reporter demanding a recount after the election? Remember when Nancy Grace and Ashley Banfield acted like they were remotely transmitting thousands of miles away when they were actually sitting about 30 feet from each other in the same parking lot, while the same cars were zooming by in the background? Remember when Chris Cuomo and Brooke Baldwin acted like they were impartial reporters, but actually admitted that CNN is one of the biggest promoters of the Clinton campaign?
She's on her way to deciding.
We'll see.
About deciding.
We couldn't help her any more than we have.
I know.
You know what I mean? She's got just a free ride so far from the media. We're the biggest ones promoting her campaign.
Guys, I could go on and on all day about the acting careers of these so-called CNN reporters and journalists. But please bear with me for a minute while I set this up. I don't get a chance to watch movies that often. And when I do, I gravitate toward action movies. But when I sit down to watch one, the experience is almost always ruined because I can't just sit there, turn my mind off, and enjoy it. I'm always on the lookout for crap they're trying to desensitize me to, brainwash me with, and cram down my throat. My girlfriend's the same way. That's one of the things I love about her. We're like frickin' Siskel and Ebert cranked up to 12, pausing the scene, analyzing what's said, looking for the subtle deceptions, and critiquing the horrible acting. The movies we have watched, we usually don't finish. The crap they put out these days isn't worth wasting time on. But I found that when I have watched movies, I've been able to learn a little from the subtleties they're deceiving the masses with and what methods they're using. Sometimes it's obvious, and sometimes it's very hard to catch. Back to CNN and the actors they're trying to pawn off as real reporters and journalists. And the irony here is both hilarious and sickening. So me and Trish were sitting there watching the recent Mission Impossible movie called Fallout with Tom Cruise. In the first 10 or 15 minutes after Cruise's character Ethan Hunt and his buddies managed to lose 3 spheres of plutonium, this scene shows up. It's Wolf Blitzer reporting on 3 separate nuclear attacks that were supposedly launched with that stolen plutonium. So you've got a real-life CNN actor playing an acting role in a movie, acting like a real news anchor. It kind of messes with your mind when you know what's really going on. According to the movie plot, this isn't really Wolf Blitzer. This is Benji, one of Ethan's fellow agents disguised as Wolf Blitzer from CNN. The 3 areas that were reportedly destroyed with nukes were the Vatican in Rome, Jerusalem in Israel, and Mecca in Saudi Arabia. But we find out a little later that the reason they're putting on this show with fake Wolf Blitzer as the CNN news anchor is to deceive Norwegian nuclear weapons specialist Nils Delbruck into believing that the nuclear bombs were actually detonated at these 3 religious sites when in fact they weren't. So they were intentionally broadcasting fake news to deceive Delbruck, which is fitting that the producer of the movie hired Blitzer to act like a fake news actor. Turns out that earlier, Hunt's team of agents arranged a car accident with Delbruck, drugged him, and brought him unconscious to this staged hospital room where he'd wake up to this false report being read on this monitor by Wolf Blitzer, who's really Benji in disguise. When Delbruck comes to, he sees what he believes to be CNN's Wolf Blitzer reporting on the destruction of the 3 religious sites. A destruction that he and his partner in crime, John Lark, had been planning and laid out in a manifesto Lark had written in which Hunt and his team had intercepted. The goal of the fake news report was to deceive Delbruck into giving the Mission Impossible guys the passcode to his cell phone so they could track down John Lark, the guy who could lead them to the plutonium they lost, which happens to be in the hands of people who, as it turns out, hate the government. People the movie mislabels as anarchists.
The anarchist Solomon Lane.
As a side note, this Delbruck is made out to be the bad guy, appears to be anti-authoritarian, and wants to bring down the violence and subsequent suffering of the system. While the real authoritarians in the movie, Ethan Hunt and his government agent friends, are of course painted out as the good guys, as most movie storylines go. While playing good cop, bad cop, Ethan threatens to beat the crap out of Delbruck while Luther holds him back. They make a deal with Delbruck to make a call and have John Lark's manifesto read by fake Wolf Blitzer live on the air if Delbruck gives them the passcode to his cell phone. Hunt makes the call, Blitzer, who's really Benji, starts to read the manifesto, and Luther turns up the volume on the TV so Delbruck can hear what's being reported by CNN. Delbruck, convinced that CNN is reading Lark's manifesto to the world, types the passcode into his phone to unlock it. Luther checks out the contents of the phone on a laptop to verify the location of the actual plutonium and actual detonation devices, and this happens.
Go.
The walls of the fake hospital room fall, revealing the fact that Delbruck was the brunt of an elaborate hoax that deceived him into giving the government his passcode. Benji comes in as Wolf Blitzer and stands at the foot of Delbruck's bed with Ethan and Luther, rips off the Wolf Blitzer mask, and the whole charade leaves Delbruck wondering what the hell just happened. The fascinating and tragic irony is that this is classic predictive programming, where the elites who control Hollywood and mainstream media overtly shove reality in our faces by showing us how things actually work in the corporate news world. CNN actors do appear on our TV screens, and they do read scripts that broadcast fake stories which deceive viewers into responding to that deception. And they do this in order to achieve the corporate master's intended objectives. This scene perfectly encapsulates the reality of corporate media fakery. And it's done in broad daylight as they use Hollywood's silver screen to rub our noses in it. And the masses can't put two and two together and wake up from the morphine drip of their self-induced mainstream media coma. Guys, thanks for watching. I create at least one new video every day. If you get something out of this content and you want to be alerted when I upload new material, subscribe to High Impact Vlogs, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, and share it with everybody you know. Because the specter of censorship and termination looms over channels like mine, be sure to subscribe to my free private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. And if you think it's worth helping the cause of truth here on this channel, you can support my work on Patreon or PayPal, or you can grab a hard-hitting shirt from the most politically incorrect shirt store on the planet. There are over 100 kick-ass designs, and I'm adding new ones every week. All these links are in the description and in the pinned comment. Remember, don't just believe anything and keep questioning everything. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored video.
Standing
Did we get it?
through common suffering. It is the first step toward the ultimate brotherhood of man.
We got it.
The suffering I